appreciate it. You all fans for Re-Animator?
Yeah!
Okay, let's give a round of applause for Jeffrey Combs and Abbott. For Barbara Crampton, Richard Van for being here today.
How's everybody? Bruce and I are on time, as usual. The others are lost somewhere in this place, so we thought we'd just start, and they can join us when they find their minds. Okay.
Someone's cranky
The
already.
professor's at the podium.
Yes, yes. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for coming and visiting here in Lexington.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you all being here, and we hope you definitely do it again. But we'll kind of go on and get started. Have you all read the Herbert West Re-Animator short story?
Yes. Right away, it was kind of one of the first things we got from Stuart was a mimeographed, stapled. I mean, that's a whole story. You know, when Stuart was at a party and someone said to him, well, this is way before Re-Animator was even an idea, and they said, well, you know, there's this short story of Lovecraft's that might be good for a movie, and they mentioned Herbert West Re-Animator to me. He'd never heard it, and so back in those days, we're talking like before Re-Animator was made, like maybe early '80s. He went to the Chicago Public Library, and they said, yes, we have a copy of that, but it's in our archives, and so you have to make an appointment. So fill out this, and we'll send you a postcard when you can come for your appointment. So he waited like 3 weeks, and then they went in, and they brought it, and they gave him white gloves. And it was just this really flimsy, original copy of Weird Tales with Re-Animator.
Where Pulp Fiction came in.
Herbert, yes. And so he mimeographed that because he couldn't take it with him. He couldn't check it out. And that's what he gave us, is copies of that. So yes, the answer, that's a long answer for yes.
I don't think I read it. I'm pretty sure I read it. No, this is not the Dan Kane story. It's the
Yeah, there's no
story.
Dan
It's
Kane.
like there is no Dan Kane. Like next, no.
There is a character, but he's not given a name.
Yeah.
So
Just reaffirm.
and Herbert was blonde, so there's that. Yeah.
Well, I guess it's time to open up the floor for some questions, if you all are cool. Pardon?
Bruce, I don't think
There we go. Okay, I apologize. Okay, so I guess we can open up the floor for some questions for our great guests.
Yes, sir. With the Montreal Expos hat on.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
So, how did you prepare for the role, both of you, and of course, Jeffrey, how did you prepare to be so condescending and everything in that role?
How did I prepare for what of the role?
how being condescending.
Oh, to be condescending. It's easy. It's very easy. Fuck off.
When you're smarter than anybody else in the room, it's so simple.
How do we prepare? Well, one thing we did together, because of Stuart, is he said that you guys have a field trip scheduled. And we're like, what? And he said, tomorrow, I think it was tomorrow or 2 days from now, you have an appointment down at the LA morgue. You're going to meet a coroner, and he's going to show you around.
Yeah.
And it was like, are we going to do this? Are we going to do this? Here's Richard Band.
Yeah. Please welcome Mr. Bennett. We have no idea where Barbara is. She's on her way.
Well, she seems to be doing that a lot. Okay. So we went to the morgue. We went to the morgue, and it was a real shocker. Kind of a stunning experience. It was creepy. We noticed that the coroner had a very dark sense of humor. He was relishing our shock.
Yeah.
Didn't smell very good.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys picked that up or not in the movie, but like when Dan is sort of like taking a body into the morgue part, he holds his, he holds his breath because there is a palpable stench, we'll say. It's not rotting, but it's not good. So-
But it probably wouldn't have done. There's Barbara. You probably wouldn't have made that choice if we hadn't had the field trip, though.
Yeah, and it's like strangely, I don't remember being, it's shocking in the beginning, but like after just a few minutes, you realize like there's sort of no vibration coming from any of that. So you don't have any real human response to it, and it kind of looks like art, especially because people change colors depending on the way they die. And so you blue people and you got red people,
Yeah.
It's like, wow, I kind of felt nothing, but it was also really informative too. The sensory part, particularly the smell, and it helped. It helped me fill out who Dan was.
But I think also the most important thing we learned from that was that the inertness and the absolute fantasy that you could actually revive a dead person. That's kind of impossible. And so the magic, the wonder of us even thinking we could do that really was a clearer wonderment for us to think that we could do that. It's a miracle. So it really kind of helped us play that in a big way, more vividly, I think.
We also had like 2 weeks of rehearsal. I don't know if you guys know that either, but one of the coolest things about Stuart was that he came from the theaters, we all did, and he said, let's just put this thing up, get on your feet, get off book, and just start to hear it without wondering what the next thing you were going to say. And after you give people like us that kind of head start, we're going to crush it.
And it's really important because this is a low budget, 3-week, 18-day shoot. And so there was no time on set to go, and you're gonna be doing what, and you're gonna that, and where should I be? We all had that already. And so it was kind of like, oh, we know this song, let's go. So that was very helpful. How come you don't have a microphone?
We're sharing.
Okay.
Don't be jealous.
Yeah, we're a couple. It's fine.
Next question? Right here? Yeah.
Speak up.
Okay. Hi. My question's a bit weird and loaded.
Oh, good.
So,
Live is good, man.
I went to a summer art camp here in Kentucky, and basically we were taught the value of our art and how everybody is an artist. How did being actors in this, especially coming from theater, how did this inspire your art in further movies or further acting jobs that you were in? How do you see it as an art?
It's a good question. Well, I would say for me, I hadn't done a lot of film work, some, but not in any kind of a long form, which a day here or 2 days there or something like that. So for me, it was invaluable to just be on the set and learning this craft and all of the different aspects of it firsthand for a longer period of time. 3 weeks, it was invaluable, actually. I kind of kept my eyes and ears open and just watched everybody doing what they do and how they interact, because it's a collaborative art form. And it takes a lot of people to put a movie together. So that's how it informed me. Just kind of learn the ropes.
Yeah, I concur exactly with what you said. It's a collaborative art form, and there's so many people that go into making a film, from the costume people to the director to the actors to the crew people, and you have to be able to, work with everybody, work well with others. So, and that was an early film for me too. I had also come from working on a soap opera for a while. I worked on Days of Our Lives for a year, and we had to learn a lot of dialogue very quickly. And so I think, you know, what that taught me, and also working in this movie, was just be extremely prepared at all times, because there's so many things that could go wrong, and like Bruce said, we had weeks of rehearsal for Re-Animator, so you want to be able to dial everything in and just be prepared for all the magic that happens. You know, you think you know how you're going to play a scene or how it's going to go, but then interesting things happen, and you have to be able to go with that. So you can do that the more prepared you are, even though art is about imagination and creativity. You can't really do your best, I think, unless you're extremely prepared. Like they used to say, Fred Astaire would practice his dance steps more than anyone else. And he looked like it was effortless, but he was so meticulous and so prepared, and that's why it really sings and just has a life of its own. So I think everything I've learned from working for 40 years is that you just have to be prepared all the time.
I think the fact that you were born makes you a piece of art. You know, like you are a miracle. The fact that you're alive, and your life is a miracle, and it is a piece of art. But at the same time, I think making art is something really different. I think I certainly didn't feel like we were, this movie became art. It wasn't art. We were just trying to make a good movie. It became something much bigger than what any of us dreamed it would be, and it turned into kind of a piece of art. And you know, it's still kind of like as a head scratcher for me. You know, that how did that possibly happen?
You turned from a film into cinema.
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah, and you were like, honestly, I felt I was happy to do it, especially after I started to work with these people and went like, oh, this is really cool. But you know, I was like, God, maybe nobody will see this, and you know, I can get out of here alive. But you know, like nobody knows where they're going. You know, right in this world, like if somebody comes to me and says like, oh, I know what I'm doing in 30 years, I'm gonna be like, yeah, let me talk to you in 30 years. See how that works out for you.
Richard, what do you think? Art.
Art.
Go.
What can I say about art?
Well, you get this thing after it's down the road.
Yeah, there's the difference is, when I get it, the film is basically cut, constructed, and obviously beforehand met with Stewart at length, and you know, understood the overall concept, and we had to set that direction. So let's start with Stewart. I think that's important.
Yeah.
His vision, what he wanted out of the film, and when you're doing a film, regardless of any film, you start with the script, obviously, but things transform as you're shooting, and then you got the editing process. So whatever, then you end up with the product. Then I come in at the very end, and it's kind of said that music and scoring is kind of the soul of a movie. So how do we put, from an artistic standpoint in cinema, how do you put the soul into the movie? And that was my function, basically. So we had to come up with the right feeling. For instance, the love story, right? That's crucially important. The love story, so you have a certain theme going along with that. But more important than any of that was Re-Animator had to have a uniqueness in the sound quality of the music. Thus, it had to be, I thought from the beginning, quirky, not necessarily funny, but quirky, odd, weird, and these were the ingredients that have stood the test of time. And in fact, Re-Animator, over 40 years, I believe, has set a style of movie making and movie scoring that has, up to this 40-year point, been very influential. I think that's evident by quite a few people in this room, and the interest in the film that keeps growing. So you've got the soul of a movie, you've got all these ingredients that come together at various times, and that's sort of the standpoint from where I come in, which is always at the very end, and obviously it's crucial that that the movie has to have the right feel from a musical standpoint, and needless to say, sound, all the ingredients. So they've done all this work beforehand and all the editing afterwards in post, and then we put the icing on the cake, so to speak. Put that soul into the movie, or do the best we can to do so.
You light the candles.
That's right. There you go. That's a good way to put it.
You know, Stewart had never directed a film before. However, he was the artistic director of his own theater in Chicago, Organic Theater. So he had gone through this process of putting a production together before. So he certainly wasn't a novice in being able to communicate with all the different departments towards his vision, and I think he was a good communicator that way.
He was very good in that way, and trusting. And I like to tell a short story often when it comes to Stewart. Is the very first time we met, and it was kind of established that I was going to do, but nothing was sure as far as scoring Re-Animator at that time. And so we met for the first time, and we had a dinner. We didn't want to see if we were simpatico, right? So we had the dinner, and then afterwards, we both discovered that we loved Frank Zappa music. And at that point, we started singing. We both knew word for word the first two Frank Zappa albums, and we spent the next 2 or 3 hours singing a cappella the first two Frank Zappa albums. Right there, and then that's when we knew we were simpatico, and the same mind, humor-wise, gore-wise, all of that, and that trust relationship lasted, at least in my case, over 8 or 9 movies and TV shows and all that over 35 years. So it's a big part of it right there with Stewart.
Next question.
Well, first of all, happy birthday, because today,
Oh, it's today.
Today, Re-Animator came out 4
Today,
years ago.
Re-Animator came out today.
Re-Animator's finally over the hill. So, Barb, you remade Castle Freak, and you made a nice little stinger at the
Can you
end.
speak louder so
No
other
one
people
can really.
I'm trying. I went to
Oh,
karaoke
yeah.
last night, so.
Here.
You remade Castle Freak, and you had a nice little stinger at the end of Castle Freak. Just a tease, or is that going to be followed up on?
No, just, no, sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry that there was a remake of Castle Freak. I apologize. Oh, I don't know. It was okay. The original's much better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a, anytime you make a movie, whoever's in charge and has the money, they always think, well, how can we capitalize on this? So sometimes you put a little tease at the end of a movie to think, oh, could we do something else with it? And there was a little tease about, the Lovecraft universe, but we didn't do anything with it, and I don't think we're going to. I don't think that movie had the impact that we hoped it would, and I was a producer on it, but many things on that set didn't go the way that I wanted it to go, and I prefer other movies I produced to that one, and other movies I've been in to that one. Just being honest, you guys are here, and I'm just gonna be honest with you.
I still liked it.
I'm glad you like it, thank you. I like the original much more, but thank you. Yeah, and then somebody had a question over here.
So there were a lot of scenes that were cut out in the first Re-Animator, and I just want to know if you guys could pick one scene to put in the movie but take one out, what would that scene be for each of you guys?
I don't think we take anything out, put in. I mean, it happened so long ago, and maybe Richard knows maybe some of the scenes that he saw, like in the first cut or whatever. That there was a backstory that Dr. Hill had of being able to be sort of a Svengali and capture people's attention and, you know, sort
Hypnotize
of
them into his will. that-
mesmerize them, and yeah, they do their will, do his will, and that's still in there. But in the original cut, I think there was more of that in there. There was a couple of dream sequences. I don't think that you're missing scenes, like whole scenes. It's normally when you do an assembly of a movie, it's always longer, and then they trim down every scene and make it as tight as possible. So it's not like they're cutting out scenes. They're cutting out, you know, bits of performances and reactions and things like that. So that's the stuff that's cut out. But
Barbara's right. That was a lot of that. It's not that they were cutting out, you know, important ingredients at all. It was just really cutting the fat a lot. And there was a lot. There was a lot of footage that was shot at the time. And but Barbara's right. The only part I think that was greatly minimized was this secondary, possible secondary story of the hypnotizing, which was still in the film. But that's really what it is, just cutting the fat out and doing that carefully. And that's actually where my father was working at the time with us, where he was very influential.
Your father was
in the
pivotal.
editing, yes.
Your father was pivotal in the cutting room with the great Lee Percy and the editor. But it was the two of them.
Yeah, that's true. With Lee Percy, the editor, and my father, they spent a good deal of time, you know, making it into a concise movie that moved along properly. And so no huge major scenes taken out.
There's one scene I'm glad that they didn't put in the movie, and that's when Dan comes into my room and I'm shooting myself up with reagent. Right. Well, we shot it, but I didn't want to. I thought it was a wrong note, and I'm glad it's not in the movie because I don't think Herbert needs that.
That wasn't his. He didn't need that for his evil genius.
That's not the purpose of the reagent.
On the other hand, I could use them right now. A little bit.
Right, the juice.
A little bit of juice.
So I just thought it disempowered Herbert. So I was glad when they decided to take that out because that's good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, thank all of you for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I've seen some of you at Monster Mania in Jersey, so it's a different experience being in Kentucky. I had a question for Richard. I know most of us feel the recall, especially at the start of the film, with that wonderful score, alluding a little bit to Psycho, but taking a hard right turn in the other direction.
Sure.
What was your inspiration for the main score of Re-Animator?
Can anybody heard that? What was your main inspiration for the score?
Right. Well, again, going back to the very beginning and looking at this film, when I looked at it for the first time, which is that first rough cut that was way longer, like almost an hour longer, I felt at that time it was just obviously too long, and they cut it down and all that. But again, we have to go back 40 years. I really thought that if the approach to the film, which Stuart and Brian kind of wanted in the beginning, it took a little of us coming to minds over this. Stuart and Brian, they really wanted to make like the super iconic, scary horror movie type thing. And when we ended up looking at all this, from my standpoint, I really felt that if that's all that the music did and that's all that was portrayed was horror and all this, that people wouldn't really enjoy it. So I needed to come up with a device of how can the music help make the audience enjoy watching all this horrible stuff going on. I wanted to give the audience a permission structure to look at it and laugh at it because it was so outrageous. So that was my thinking from the outset, and it took a couple weeks or so for us all to come to that mindset. And then the secondary part is I wanted the audience to immediately identify with something in horror and suspense, something that the audience would automatically immediately know of here in their own minds. And I said, okay, well, what is the most probably iconic music for horror and suspense? And it was Bernard Herrmann, without question, but which one? And of course, Psycho came to mind. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe I could tweak a couple of motifs and put in, make my own theme and my whole feel, but maybe I could take a couple of the motifs from Psycho so that people could, again, identify immediately with that. And therefore, I took a couple that are somewhat recognizable, switched them around, and then came up with my own themes, and we have the theme that it is today. So again, it was that whole direction of wanting to make this into something that the audience could literally enjoy and laugh at and be grossed out all at the same time. Does that kind of answer?
It does, because the oboe to me in the score, it's like a marriage of Psycho and Scooby-Doo.
Well, there you go.
With our parents, Scooby-Doo, when, it first started watching it in syndication, and then us trying to bridge that gap into horror, it's like.
There you go. You nailed it.
It's really,
You nailed it. There it is, right there.
it's really interesting, Richard, that you said you needed to find something to give the audience permission. And way back before we were even shooting, Bruce and I had a conversation about the very same thing. Like, this is really bloody. We've got to find release points.
Absolutely.
So that it's not just one note. And so, like minds, making decisions, artistic decisions at different points in the process, that's amazing.
Yes, that's, and it's evident in some of the scenes where, I mean, come on, how can you get away with a guy with a shovel, chopping the head off and saying,
Well, it's very easy,
"Dangerous,"
actually, like,
it's dangerous, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah, but the real key, I think, is that Brian and Stuart were right to approach this with seriousness and not going for comedy at all.
Yes,
If
yes.
the comedy is there, it's out of character, it's out of character's choice or plot, but it's not something that someone's winking at you and saying, "Aren't we funny?" Because then it would have been a disaster.
Absolutely agree
So
with that.
playing it straight and serious gave it gravitas, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Next question. You right there? No, one behind you, I'm sorry.
Okay. So one of the reasons I love Re-Animator so much is the special effects and how they were able to do so much with so little. Like, my favorite's the drill, like going through the guy and how they were able to do that. I was wondering what, like, your guys' favorite practical effects to do on set were.
Favorite practical effect?
I liked the cow eye. You know where the cow eye is.
I don't.
It was just the moment that stuck with me, because at the end of the film, we're leaving the autopsy room, and then we're running to the elevator, and before the zombie who kills me, there's another zombie that's like running after me, and so you stop him at that moment, and you're fighting with him, and at that moment you grab his eyeball, and I don't know what threat his eyeball posed, but for whatever reason, Stuart just had it in his head that he wanted you to grab the guy's eyeball out of the zombie, and somehow that would stop him. And then my friend was visiting the set that night. We were doing a night shoot, as a lot of the nights were, and she was so grossed out by it. And you were holding the real cow eye. Everything in the movie is like special effects. It's like fake, but we had a real freaking cow eye. And I don't know, it's the real stuff that gets to me. And you had to hold the damn cow eye. So the next time you watch the movie, look for that cow eye. And what did you think about holding that cow? I don't know.
You know, we were like just so used to having to go way over and more. It's like I remember the last night, like, you know, the makeup's doing my makeup and it's black in my eye, and you take it to Stuart, and he's like, more, just more of everything, and you bloody my nose, and, you know, knock me around. It's like, yeah, just a little bit more. Let's just get a little bit more of that. So at this point, what were we, like 20 hours in that night? By the time I got the cow, I could give a shit, right? It's like, I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I'm so fucking tired. So it was just seemed like more of the same, honestly.
Yeah, but I would say, you know, to piggyback on what you're saying, is like Stuart would always say he wanted more crying, more, you know, more blood. It was like, and then I think Jeffrey said at one point, more is not enough with Stuart. It was just always more. But
Stuart would say more is more.
more is more.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but the best special effect is the head. I mean, come on, that's like him holding the head, and then come on, what he did with that head, Jesus Christ. You know, hats off to the special effects team for pulling that off, because it still gets everyone today. Like, I'm meeting people while we're sitting there, and new people are coming up and saying, oh, I just saw this movie 2 weeks ago. I love it, it's my new favorite movie. And I'm like, so it really holds up, and it's just so outrageous. So I mean, I think, you know, I have a special place in my heart for the cow eye, but I really think the head is like an amazing gimmick, and what they did with it, and, you know, turned it into a visual pun and stuff is like, so it's timeless. It's timeless. It's very cool.
I just want to say one more thing about this. Barbara and I did this. You remember the scene where we're kind of trying to say goodbye to each other. It's right before she gets abducted and stuff. And I remember Mr. Moore. I got to have more of everything. I remember him stepping back after we kind of did some of this stuff, and he's like, "God, you guys, like you're really like into this." Like, it's like, well, what happened to Mr. Moore? You know, like, are we in it or are we not? Like, you want us to sell out? Well, we're selling out. Now you want less. So it was pretty cool.
Okay, and then one other thing. Okay, okay. Stuart used to say the best special effect is the actor, and you know, we always appreciated that. And that is my favorite scene in the movie, because that was such a tender moment between the two of us, and maybe we could have gotten back together then. And then my damn father comes in and abducts me and ruins the whole thing. But you know, the horror and what goes on in the movie and the humor and everything really works, because it also works in concert with the emotional weight of the movie and what's going on and what's happening. And so it has so many components to it. I think that's why it all works as well. So I'm a special effect, I guess.
My favorite special effect is just a sequence in the movie that everybody knows is the cat scene. And there is no cat. There is no cat. There's a swinging light. There's a cat going meow. There's two guys with a mallet and a baseball bat chasing it around her specifically. There's no cat. And that's really a great special effect.
Those are the actors selling that effect.
It's also editing, it's also Mac Oberg, swing that light. It's a lot of decisions that go into creating the illusion. And that's what all those special effects are, the illusion that something is there that's not. And so that's kind of the essence of cinema.
And I remember scoring that scene very specifically because the sounds that were going on were crucial, and I wanted that to be a part of it. So all I really used in that was a slightly out of tune solo violin that sounded like a cat.
Herbert, there!
And then that was that.
Yeah, it's just all of the aspects of a film coming together, and you call it the cat scene.
And Dan gets so little credit for his ghost special effect when he's getting out of bed with Meg, right?
Yeah, the
About that
Halloween
terrifying moment, right? He pretends to be a ghost. There's my damn special effect.
It's terrifying to see you in a cheap too.
Next question.
Good.
Hi.
Nurse?
Yes, I'm Thomason from The Witch.
Oh, nice.
Did any of you in your real lives have like an absolute doozy of a roommate in your real lives? Like a la murdering a cat in the basement? Maybe not that bad, but.
Had a roommate that,
Like a doozy.
Have you ever had like a really terrible roommate at any point in your real life?
Okay, do you guys know Helen Udy? She's here with the movie. She was my roommate. She was like my first roommate. She wasn't a Helen roommate, but she was my first roommate. Way back when. Oh, you're so cute.
Okay, he wasn't a roommate, but he was a friend, and I have never ever met another person that had such, I'm gonna say karma for lack of a better word, but this guy was a walking nightmare. More than once, I watched rows of streetlights go out with being with him in the car. And he said, oh yeah, that kind of happens a lot in town. And I'm like, it happens with you. He had stuff. We were walking drunk in the ocean once, like just little tiny shore break, like little tiny ripples. He steps on the letter, like thing that you put the head
Oh,
on.
like
He steps on that and buries it in his heel in like 2-inch water. What is that thing doing standing up? And how the hell do you step on it when it's that tall? This kind of hit and run. This guy got hit and run all day. Like he would get hit at a stoplight, and people would run, run. He was very dangerous, and also like very kind of a dangerous person. So that was kind of.
Bruce is talking about me.
I tried, Jeff. I tried. No.
That did fit.
No, I can't remember having a bad roommate. Actually, no. I remember a roommate one time. I was lying in my bed with a bunch of guys in college, and it was dark. It was like 11 o'clock, and there was a knock on my door, and it creaked open. He was kind of backlit. This guy was hilarious. He was backlit, and he goes, "Jeff, I found out my problem." And I saw that he was like naked. And I went, yeah. And he said, I have a stick up my ass. And he turned around and he literally did have a stick stick and he walked away. So it's pretty horrifying.
That sort of changes the whole dynamic.
Did you have to pull it out?
Listen, he was a hilarious guy. He was hilarious.
I'm not even gonna go there.
It's a visual joke.
And no, on this end, no.
I've had some sloppy roommates, that's for sure. Anyway.
We've got time for a couple of more questions. Right here.
For Jeff and Barbara, when you get the From Beyond script, were you like, okay, more of the same? Or were you like, oh, this is, because I love From Beyond, so I just wanted to ask you.
What did I think more of the same?
No, it wasn't more of the same. It wasn't
No,
Re-Animator.
no.
It was quite different.
I love them.
No, I mean, I'll speak to what you're saying, but I don't, I think, well, first of all, Dennis Paola, who's the writer of Re-Animator, said to me, you got From Beyond as, because of what you had to go through in Re-Animator. So they paid you back. I was like, that's a good payback, because that's one of my favorite roles. Obviously, I think, Re-Animator is Stewart's seminal movie, but for me, the part in From Beyond was amazing, and I got to go through so many machinations of a character in one movie and go crazy at the end, and wear black leather and be a buttoned-up psychiatrist at first. So it was super fun, to have that role. One of my favorites. I don't know how Jeffrey.
Well, I'm just curious what they were paying me back for to let me have a dog that come out of my forehead. That's
No, I think that was a harder role for you. And, you know, was it like, let's be honest, because we're all here, you're all insiders, like, you know, Jeffrey killed it in Re-Animator, did an amazing job, and then, I don't know, just that role in Re-Animator just maybe you felt a little hemmed in with that part.
Well, no, I wasn't hemmed in. It was just different notes to play. You know, in Re-Animator, Herbert turns out to be sort of a driving force, but in From Beyond, it's a completely different role. I'm a victim. I am reacting to everything that's happening around me. Kind of like Dan.
How's it feel to be Dan?
Yeah, exactly. Kind of exactly that.
Yeah.
And I can't measure up to you, Bruce. I think you are the unsung hero of Re-Animator. Actually, you're the heart and soul. You're the everyman that from the very first frame, you are trying to save somebody's life. That you are going above and beyond because you're innately a good person. And then I come along. And I ruin your life. Everything goes sideways.
But I also agree that From Beyond is an excellent movie. It didn't get quite, it's just deserves overall.
It's the 40th anniversary next year.
Next year.
Yikes.
That's right, be the 40th for that. And needless to say, the whole troop came back to do that. And I think it's a really excellent movie. And I love scoring that movie. That was
Yeah.
the whole different direction.
Yeah.
That was wonderful.
It's wonderful. Beautiful music.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. 45 minutes is not enough time, but again, it's all we got. However, they are at their tables all weekend. You know, also make sure you follow them on their social media platforms. Please give a warm round of applause to Barbara Crampton, Bruce Captain, and Ricky Bang. Thank you all so much.
Here's the still